Hey everyone, Charlie here. Welcome back to One Cup of Japan. This is a show where we have a conversation over something good that suits you. This morning, we are walking here in northern part of Sabae, in Fukui Prefecture here in the western part of Japan. So I plan to do more of these outside of Sabae City, but unfortunately, mugicha, so good. Before we get into that, by the way, today's drink is mugicha. It's a barley tea, like a roasted barley tea. It's very good if you don't want any caffeine. It's super refreshing here in the summertime. And now that the rainy season is over, it's just sort of like unbearably humid and hot. So things like this are highly recommended if you come over here. As I was saying, I wanted to start doing some of these in different places, in different cities, different prefectures for this season, and maybe we'll still be able to, depending on how things go. But given the increasing severity of the corona situation here in Japan, it just it's not a feasible thing to do at this point. So apologies for that, but please bear with me. I too would like to go to a different place, believe me when I tell you that. Today, I'm gonna be talking about the Jvlogging community. Those of you who are newer to the scene here in like the Japan sphere of YouTube, I suppose, I guess until I don't know, about 2 or 3 years ago, there was this thing called the Jvlogging community. And I suppose you could still argue to some extent it exists. It exists now, and maybe it still does, and I'm just not part of it. That's why I don't know. But, well, let's start at the beginning, I suppose. When I got started on YouTube, was 2014. This channel got started in 2014 anyway. Yes, hello, Crow. And when I got into it, originally the reason why I wanted to get into it because I've been watching channels like Sanja no Sekai and of course Give Me a Break Man and Hiko Simon and all those guys, and I thought, well, I'm going to be moving to Japan. I don't really have a network there where I'm going to be, so I might as well try to make like a digital network and all that kind of thing. I love this area that we're walking through right now because, well, first there's this cool shrine, but also there's a lot of really narrow streets, which I'll be showing you as we walk along here. But yeah, so I thought, well, it'd be good to have some kind of community, and I want to be able to share my experiences, particularly with my friends and family back home. So let's make videos, right? Which, you know, it's kind of a old story. This is sad, eh? All these summer festivals being canceled because of well, you know why. And at that time, when I got into it, I just, maybe the timing was lucky, but I got into it when like people like Wikipedia and Pickles the Gaijin, and there was a guy by the name of Shane, who I don't think makes videos anymore, and Jake Knowlton, and yeah. When I started, those were the guys that I sort of like, those were the people that were like in the same class, so to speak, right? So, yeah, so, and through that, I made a lot of friends. We had like a meetup in Osaka. Osaka? Did we go to Kyoto? Osaka? Kyoto, it was in Kyoto. And I got to meet some really cool people. Christina, I met Mel, I met Travis, who's now a really good friend of mine. And anyway, because of the Jvlogging community, I was able to survive those first couple of years that I was here. And again, I've talked that to death about how lonely my first 2 years here were. And so I'm really, really happy that the thing called the Jvlogging community existed. And anyway, long story short, maybe I guess 2 or 3 years ago, it sort of just imploded. The Jvlogging thing. Like, people people at the time that I got started were really interested in collaborating with each other, and people were really nice to each other. And then through a series of things that don't really need to be talked about again in any depth, because they're on various people's channels, there's a bunch of drama and blah blah blah, and then that sort of just spelled the end of it, I think. The reason why we're talking about this today is because a fellow by the name of SakanaJin tweeted about this on Twitter, basically saying, well, whatever happened to the Jvlogging community, that kind of thing. And it got me thinking about it a little bit. Now I should point out, SakanaJin, I don't know him personally. We know each other just because we're connected, probably because of this mythical Jvlogging community. We just followed each other a while ago, but feel free to check him out. But as I was saying, so it was like this idea of whatever happened, and basically I said what I just said now, is that there just seemed like there's so much drama and whatever, and it just got to the point where it was just tiresome to be part of it, And even so, I was thinking about like what I was gonna do for the next cuppa, and it seemed like this is worth talking about, but I really wanted to make sure that I had some time to think about it before I talked about it. And yesterday I went to the beach and went scuba diving and all that jazz, and that gave me a little bit of time to just sort of think things through about what I wanted to say, and so now here we are. And I think what happened to the community is kind of twofold. I think you had a couple of channels really, really take off, right? Like Rachel and June, and like Abroad in Japan and that kind of thing. And you had people who had been connected to these people, even tangentially, who after their like sort of boom and success were like, that is noisy, isn't it? Back here, some sort over here. Say something. Some kind of production company, construction company. And yes, that's where we're going, that narrow little countryside street over there. But as I was saying, is you had people who were connected to these people, if only tangentially, who were wondering like, well, why the heck aren't they helping me get a leg up and that kind of thing. Like we're friends, like we know each other, like why aren't you like bumping my channel? Why aren't you trying to get people, why aren't you trying to pat me on the back kind of thing, where, and like you can understand a little bit, right? It's like, okay, well, we've been like in the trenches together. That's a weird thing to say because it's not war, but we've been trying to build something separately but at the same time, and we know each other and we both know what it's like and all that kind of thing. So like when one of us made it, like why wouldn't you help me out kind of thing, But a lot of what happened after that, when people weren't getting these sort of like handouts and just sort of like a bit of a PR boost from these channels that made it, is that people were like, okay, well, people get angry, they get jealous, they get everything else, and so that started this sort of a lot of infighting and that kind of thing. And it always just sort of struck me as a little bit strange because I know that I personally too, like I really thought, like I thought it would really be cool if some of the bigger, more established channels would sort of help me out, that was a wish of mine for sure. And I remember when I got on like Two Old Dudes, that's a completely different show. God, what is it even called anymore? I feel so sorry. Two Oyajis? One and a half Oyajis with Hiko Simon and Victor from Give Me a Break Man, that I was like, oh man, I did it, And then I remember when I went to Nagoya, I got to meet Victor. We all went out and got chicken wings and beer, and he put me in one of his videos that we shot at his English school, and I thought, oh man, I did it, And I felt really, really thankful for that. But, as grateful as I was for that, of course, he didn't have to. he didn't have to do that, you know? And I should point out that the other interactions that I've had with these other bigger channels, like I've never met Rachel or June from Rachel and June, but the interactions I had with them on Twitter have always been pleasant, you know, and I have nothing bad to say about any of these bigger channels, but it's like, you understand where people are coming from, where they feel like maybe someone who's their friend is kind of like being like, well, now that I made it big, fuck you, I'm not gonna help you out. But I don't really think the people who are on that sort of side of the equation are really thinking it out entirely, because, right, like people who have those channels are, you know, that's their livelihood. That's their livelihood, you know, and it's like, okay, well, I get that you have hurt feelings, but also these people are now paying their bills with this channel, and they have to protect what kind of content goes up on it, and they have to put up, you know, it is what it is, and it's cynical and all that kind of thing, but it is what it is. And it's just like, I never understood, like, but anyway, we could belabor that point, but I think that's one thing, is it's just like, to some extent, this understandable jealousy, but the things that people did because of that jealousy, the things that people said, it's no wonder that sort of the community fell apart, I think. But the other thing that I think happened, that's where we came from, by the way. But the other thing that happened, I think, was, well, I suppose to some extent it's something that always happens, I guess, is that you had people within the community, because I should point out that the community is not homogenous, you know, like just the vloggers that I'm connected with, right? There's a Jamaican guy, there's an African-American girl, a black girl, there is a Canadian woman, there's a white dude, right? But mostly, like, it's a very white space, I think, right? At least as far as the people who I was connected with, and the people who were getting popular at the time when Jvlogging was still, I don't know, it's not that it's not a thing, but it's just not what it was, I guess. But and despite that diversity, of course, like a lot of, as always is the case, people in those minority groups were not getting the same amount of notoriety, even if they were doing, right, as good or better things and all that kind of thing. But one of the things that happened, right, is that you had people who, on both sides, I shouldn't say sides, because that's not what I mean to say, but you had people from many different backgrounds who were sort of like trying to delegitimize the experiences of other people, right? And one thing that I can remember happening, and I'm guilty of this too, because I mean, I don't think I ever made any videos about it, but like I always wondered, like, okay, how real is the gaijin space? And the gaijin space, if you don't know, is when you're on a train and it's a packed train and the only seat that's open is the one next to you, and nobody will sit there because you're the scary gaijin kind of thing. That's the idea. And never really experienced that myself, so I thought, okay, well, I don't really know how real that is. But then you had the same kind of mentality being extended by many different people to many different other people, being like, okay, well, right, that doesn't happen. That's not a real thing. You're making that up for views. You're making that up for drama, whatever. And I think, as someone who's not really affected by it because of the color of my skin, I think one of the biggest things that happens, I suppose, when we're talking about this is when you're talking about like racism in Japan or xenophobia in Japan. Xenophobia, not so much, but I think most people buy into it, understand that it's a thing. But as far as the racism too, like a lot of people, particularly people who look like me, will say like, well, they hear about a racist experience, they'll be like, no, man, that wasn't racism. It was just, you know, a misunderstanding, or they were just genuinely ignorant, or whatever the case may be. But the point is that people in the Jvlogging sphere would actively make videos about how, you know, other people's experiences didn't happen. And, you know, And then it was stuff like that, and then of course that led to like infighting between people, and it's just like, it gets so tiring, you know. It's just like so tiring. And I know a lot of like the commentary at the time was that any community has drama, and of course that's true, but it's like, you know, you expect like a dramatic event, like, I don't know, once every blue moon kind of thing, you know. But in that community, it just seemed like every single day there was something or other that you needed to choose a side about, and there's something or other you needed to pick your colors for. And, you know, it gets really tiring being part of something like that. Really tiring. I love these streets. And like I said, I definitely agree with that idea that any drama, any community, especially a community that has people in it from all over the world, people with different cultural backgrounds, religious backgrounds, political backgrounds, etc. Right, there's going to be division, there's going to be disagreements, but you know, we're adults and we can handle those things productively. Or you can just say, you know what, I don't want to deal with this person, I don't agree with this person, whatever, and you just walk away. But that's never what happened. And so what happened, right, even for me, I'm a very small creator within this sphere, was it didn't feel like just normal, like, okay, well, people aren't getting along and it can't be helped kind of thing. What it felt like was, you know, cliques of high schoolers talking behind each other's back, and, you know, people who you thought were your friends or you thought you were okay with suddenly don't like you, and all this kind of shit. And it's just like, you know, at the time I was 20, 28, 29, 30, something like that. I guess it would have been 30, and it's just like, oh my God. I left all this shit behind 12 years ago, you know what I mean? Like when I graduated, and why would I want to live back through that? So, you know, that's my experience with it. And again, I want to point out that my talking about this is by no means my saying that I was not a participant in all of this, because I was. There are people who, to this day, I do not like, I don't want to associate with, because, well, for a number of reasons. It's not worth getting into, and I'm not going to call anybody out in this video. But, you know, you just don't have to talk to these people. You know, you just don't have to talk to people that you don't like and you're never going to get along with or whatever. But I think one thing that was lost, right, having said that, is that it's okay to not like people, and it's okay to not talk to people. But I always found it disconcerting. There's that shrine where we were. Just always found it disconcerting how, like, people couldn't even be cordial with each other. You know, it's like, okay, you see things one way, I see things the other way. Like, we don't have to like each other, but if we're gonna talk, can we at least be respectful for each other? And I always felt like that was something that eventually was lost through all of this. So I think, you know, I think it's really too bad, because just in my personal experience, I have met some really great people through this channel. SakanaJin, unfortunately, he and I don't have a very strong relationship these days, for example, but he's somebody who I respect. He's somebody who I don't agree with some of the things that he says, of course, but I think he is a cool guy. And because of the Jvlogging community, I got to meet him and I got to go out drinking with him before. You know, the same can be said of many other people. Somebody who is a very good friend of mine, who I've spent literal days backpacking across Japan and being miserable, and at times, I don't know if he wanted to kill me, but I wanted to kill him, but in a loving way. I wanted to murder you in a loving way, buddy Travis, you know who you are. But all this to say, I think it's a real shame, you know, because there's a lot that can come out of a out of a strong community like that. If only all of us, from the smallest creators to the biggest creators, knew how to handle things better, I think. And I think the onus is equally on everybody. On the smaller creators, it's recognizing that nobody owes you anything. And on the biggest creators, it's, again, my experience with the big creators has always been very, very positive. So I can't really say that I think they should do better, because in my experience, they have done quite well when people who are smaller in the community have reached out to them. But of course, other people have had different experiences. And the other point to summarize is just, no matter the size of your channel, or how long you've been here or haven't been here, I think it's really important not to trivialize what other people are going through and say, like, they just misunderstood, or you've only been here like a year, so what do you know, and like all that kind of shit that happens. So, you know, and I think if we could do that, then maybe we could have a shot at something more cohesive again, because like I said, it was fun, you know, it's really fun, and it could be really fun again, I think. But so anyway, that's it. All right, we are going back to the bus stop now. Man, I'm just melty. I'm melty, like my shirt had just soaked through. This is why a couple years ago when I went backpacking for a week, like within like 5 days, I lost like 5 kilos. 5 or 6 kilos, like seriously. It's so damn hot. But anyway, as we come back to this little bus station, this is Kitosabai bus station, train station too. That's a JR station over there, if you can believe it. We're going to finish our kappa. Thank you to SakanaJin for talking about this on Twitter and getting me thinking about it. It's something good to talk about, I think. On that note, guys, thanks as always for watching. We're going to finish our kappa. And I will see you all very soon indeed. Cheers.